I really want to take this time to just give praise to my Heavenly Father for allowing me to be here on this earth in this particular time and season. I was just reflecting on my life, and I was always excited about life. I remember in the 80s, I came of age in the breakdancing era when hip hop was just in its infancy. I was a big Michael Jackson supporter of his music. I had the glove and all the things that you did at that particular time, and so I was an adventurous young man. The time came when my father, who was in America at the time, decided that he wanted to send for us to come to America, and I wasn't ready for the culture shock landing in Kennedy Airport and just seeing the magnitude of the airport, and just awed with the lights. A different world, man, from the world that I knew in Dominica, and here I am in New York. And I remember, my first time playing in snow, and my mother and I, we just like two kids, making snowballs and just throwing the snowball at one another. And it was incredible. I remember when I first signed up to go to high school, man, it was an amazing time for me. But quickly, I discovered that my accent and the way I speak, and even my attire at the time, the way I dress, I was made a lot of fun of, which kind of heightened some of my insecurities. And it was a struggle for me to amalgamate into that American society. But I quickly did, because the hip hop at the time, like I said, was a very strong influence and culture. I had the high top fade and the Bobby Brown combi and whatnot, and I was nice, man. I was always at the parties. But at some point, I began to associate myself with the roughnecks, the guys that had the guns and the drugs. At the time, I never really look at it from the criminal aspect. I only view it from an aspect of surviving, coming from more of an economically challenged environment. So those were the guys that people in my age group kind of emulated and look up to, the hustlers. And I remember I began to emerge, and more I began to associate, man, in high school, man, with the guys after school. They were hustling, man, smoking cigarette. At the time, I remember I was being drawn to the life, man, the excitement, etc. And slowly, man, before you know it, I became a hustler, man. I remember at the time, I was really having some problems, with school. And there is something about a young man, especially a young black man, not stereotyping that sometimes we have difficulties with education, and there's something about it that don't let us ask for help. And I was one of those guys, man. I didn't ask for help. First time I told this teacher, I'm thinking of dropping out of school. In my deepest of heart, I did not want to drop out of school. And I remember you say, well, we can put you in special ed. And I was in special ed for a while, and I began to feel like I was dumb, like I really couldn't make it, so I'm in special ed. I began to lose interest in education quickly, and I began to embrace the gangster life. I began to embrace the street life. First time I hustled, man, was in Corona, Queens, man, on Northern Boulevard. I started selling at the time, I started selling some marijuana. Later on, I moved up to selling some crack cocaine. I think in about 2 or 3 months after I started selling, man, the cops busted me, man, and I went to Rocky's Island, from the street life for free, man, into Rocky's Island. Anyway, when I came out from Rocky's Island, man, I went back to the hustle. At that time, I was already deep in the game. Quickly made contacts, man, got back in the game. I quickly assembled a crew, and we decided, we were going to start getting money, out of state. So we started going, to South Carolina, North Carolina, Arkansas, Kansas City. We started making moves out of state, and next thing you know it, man, we I was on that level, man, where I was doing good for myself, and I'm saying all this to say, a lot of times as a young man, you do not really know who you are, and you begin to dwell deep into things you don't really understand the full ramification or the consequence of. In 1991, when a judge told me to stand. There is something about authority, when authority tell you to stand and you're about to be judged. And I remember my knees quivered. Imagine the guy that used to live that thug life, and the judge asked me to stand and my knees quiver. And I remember I had to hold on to my lawyer at the time. The judge looked at me, a young man at the age of 18, and he sentenced me to 18 years to life imprisonment. And I remember at the time my whole life, like in slow motion, flashed before my very eye. I thought of my mom. how she would feel about her first son going away for perhaps the rest of his natural life. I thought of my dad, a hard-working man who has sacrificed so much for his family, brought her from the Caribbean to America for a better life. And here I am. And how disappointed he would be. And then I thought of my brothers and sisters, me being the eldest of my 5 siblings. I remember thinking how disappointed it was going to be that I wouldn't be there to help nurture and to help guide them as I promised them that I would. You know, and it's interesting, it's only at these critical stages in your life you begin to ponder on the damage that was done and the road travel that lead you to the present where a judge was sentencing me to perhaps the rest of my natural life imprisonment. You know, many guys, man, in that prison, you know, life, we reminisce on how we end up in that place. You know, most of us came from humble beginnings. Most of us come from a church environment. So it's interesting to see that we all end up, you know, behind bars, you know, the imprisoned industrial life complex. And I remember right before I caught this case, man, you know, the reason why I talk about mothers so much, I discovered something amazing about women that I didn't know before, and it's called a woman's intuition. And I respect dreams. My mother called me one day and she said, what you doing? I'm like, yo, man, you know, whatever, I'm just doing me. You know, she said, whatever you're doing, pack your stuff and come back to New York. At that time, I was in Kansas City, and she said, pack your stuff. I had a dream, and I don't know what, but I see you going away for a long time. I said, Ma, you bugging. And she said, okay, Chris, you know, shortly after my mother had a dream, actually 2 days after that, you know, I was at this house, man, my apartment complex, and, you know, some females came over, man, you know, with drinking and, you know, smoking and whatnot, man, you know, doing what you do when you're in that life, you know, and a fight ensued. You know, when you're in a setting with a lot of people, man, you know, strange things happen, man. There is something about when a guy tells you that he's going to kill you, man, and you have people that look up to you. And I'm talking about that dysfunctional lifestyle, which I was a part of. I was a leader in my game. My crew was looking up to me as that lion for strength. I remember at the time I had a couple of kilos of cocaine in the roof, and I know some things about greed and about a man, you know, selling his soul, because at that time I sold my soul to the game. It was all about money, power, and respect, man. That's really all I was breathing for. Anyone that stepped on me wrong, I was gonna make them have it. You know, that was the mindset I was in at that particular time. Call it what it was. I'm telling you, as it is now, how I used to function back then. Contrary to popular belief about you have a free square meal and you're not paying no bills, so you don't have nothing to complain about. One of the most shocking things to me was the first time I was taking a shower and I saw a man being penetrated by another man. That was the most shocking thing to me at that particular time. I quickly got immune to seeing men getting raped because that's like a protocol in prison, you know. And I quickly found out that a lot of men, you was penetrating another man as the highest form of disrespect. You know, now I knew that to be demonic, because for another man to violate another man in that way, you could only have one thought in your mind: murder. I remember one time I was taking a shower and this guy, he did made some kind of sexual connotation to me. And one of the things that you have to understand about that prison life, man, it ain't no joke, man. And I remember when he made that remark towards me, man, a lot of guys in the shower was looking at me like, yeah, let me see how you gonna deal with this thing. Now, if I didn't do it, I knew a lot of them other guys was looking at me like, yeah, we're gonna try him, he a punk. That is just one of the graphic illustration, man, of what it's like to be in that prison life. It ain't nothing like it is on the street, you know what I mean? Very paranoid lifestyle. And I had to encounter so many different situations in prison, man, where it was literally, man, life and death. And I really want to give, you know, big ups to my moms. Many times, man, when I was in that dark place, when I felt like my back was against that wall, you know, it was my mother, man, that I could call. And it was her words, man, that really encouraged me. It was her word, man, that kept me standing, man, even when I didn't feel I had knees, you know, legs to stand on. Big up to all the mothers who are standing solid, man, behind their sons, steel fist, no matter what. Yeah, they disappointed you and whatnot, but I really wanted to say thank you to all the mothers, man, because I left a lot of homies, man, when I got out, man, after that 18 years. In essence, you can say that they're living their life now through me. So I'm their voice. That's why, like I said, you know, the time has come now for me to speak. And, you know, as we sojourn and you get a further acquainted with me, man, I will take you into the psychological makeup and the emotional aspect of what it means to be in prison. And I really just want to just encourage, young men out there that are looking at the thug life, looking at, the trap game. It's no wonder they call the cocaine game, the cocaine hustle, the trap game. You see, because the dice have already been rolled, the noose already been set. You just a mouse playing that game, but the trap have already been set. That's why they call it the trap game. But I'm telling you, when you leave them streets, you don't have no gun. You don't have no homies there to protect you. All you have is you, man. And when you enter that prison world, it's a different world. Right now, as I look at the incarceration rate in the United States and the Caribbean and beyond, it seems to me the prison has seemed to become a subculture, and it is one that it almost seems as is being embraced as a rite of passage. And I want to burn fire on that, because I'm telling you, that is a beast that needs to be burned in the fire. Prison should never be a place where a young man should find himself. And either it's going to shape you, it's going to make you, or it's going to break you. Now that I'm about to become a father, there is a call of God on my life for me to really reach out and speak to young men and to speak to my generation, man, about some of the ills, some of the same demons that we battle in our adolescent years. No, I'm seeing the children wrestling with the same thing and are going through the same growing pains. So I decided to become a voice for that particular generation. No matter what the situation is in life, there comes a time, man, where there is a higher power. And I remember the higher power, because I remember when the judge told me to stand. He was about to sentence me. Simultaneously, I heard another voice telling me that one day I will open up the prison door and I will set the captive free. Well, I never knew it would take 18 years. But God did keep his promise to me. I'm not speaking to you from a religious point of view. I'm speaking to you, man, from what I know, my truth, my encounter with the divine nature of which we call God. And he kept his promise to me. God have humbled me in many ways. He have quickened my spirit in many ways. And he's still breaking some things in me. One of the hardest things for a man to do, especially a man from my background, my past, is to humble himself. And I want to credit my mom, because my mom used to always end her letter to me, son, humble yourself. Let go and let God. And I begin to trust God, and he turned it around.